So we don't have to be rocket scientists to know that Matic has been in a massive bear market since basically the end of 2021, since the last bull run, since the last cycle when Bitcoin topped at 69K. It's basically been doing macro lower lows and macro lower highs. Even like in early 2023, we had a macro lower high here, right? That was a higher point than even early 2024. So clearly, in this entire cycle, in the entire 2024-2025 cycle, Matic has been one of the biggest, if not the biggest underperformer among the main biggest coins. And I do remember, it's wonderful times when Matic was like at the top 20, top 15 coins of the world, and now it's all the way down to number 79. So in this video, we're gonna discuss, guys, does Matic has any other chance? Matic POL, right? POL, Polygon. Does this coin still has any chances of recovering anytime in the future, or is it just gonna, keep collapsing into oblivion forever? So if you want to have a deep dive analysis in late 2025, probably gonna be relevant for early 2026 as well, about Matic, POL, Polygon, you came to the best place. In fact, I want to mention that actually I have high affinity for this coin, for Matic, right? If we are gonna look at this like from 2019 and 2020, it was actually one of my, up until today, it was one of my best trades of all time. Like I actually bought it in the bull run relatively late, like, I bought it here at the last week of February 2021, around 20 cents, which is crazy that, this is not up to date. This is crazy that we're actually lower now. But anyway, I bought it at these prices, and then, it just exploded at $2.5 shortly after. But yeah, like we said, we're in a massive bear market. And haven't really been able to reclaim anything of substance. I mean, we did have here and there like decent moves in the middle, right? Like that was a 3-4x or something like that. That was probably also not that bad, like 2.5x. But I mean, in crypto, we're not looking for something like that. And this is like from the very bottom to the very top. So obviously, this is not anywhere close to the gains that some people made from 2020. Basically 100x, more than 100x on Matic, Polygon. So it's been underperforming in a massive way, right? And in this video today, we're gonna discuss what are the chances that Matic, Polygon, still can recover sometime in the future. Can Matic, Polygon, POL actually outperform again, maybe in one of the next future cycles? Because there is a chance, right? So this is what we're gonna get into in this video, and I do want to mention that I think there is a chance for Matic, Polygon, POL. Of course, we will have to keep monitoring what's happening later on in the cycle. But yeah, let's get into the video. So as I'm recording the video, as you can see, POL is down a lot from the all-time high back in 2021, 95% down. Bitcoin and Ethereum have also not been doing that great recently. Bitcoin collapsed below the 50-week moving average and kind of does have some bounce, right? But not that impressive of a bounce so far. Everything is still, kind of looking gloomy for the foreseeable future for crypto, like, for the majority of 2026. But that said, even though we're a little bit in a no man's land, I do know that some people, of course, like as always, still think that maybe this bull run still has anything left in it for Bitcoin. But basically, this video is gonna be assuming that the bear market has started, and even if we are wrong, because of the absolutely horrible momentum that Matic, Polygon had anyway in this bull run. So even if this bull run is gonna continue, this video is still gonna be relevant only for really the next cycle. All right, so let me show why I'm interested in making the video about Matic. Like originally I was actually thinking of making a video about Sui, but as I was making here like some analysis, I was thinking, Matic, POL, Polygon is starting to look interesting. Again, maybe not in the very immediate future because of the possible even more kind of bear market stuff for the crypto, the total crypto market cap. But like once the bear market, you know, will be kind of fully, you know, unwinded kind of thing, then, you know, Matic Polygon starts to look as not a very bad option. You know, it just of course has to find the low and everything. But let me show you one of the main reasons why I think so, right? Yeah, so let's really look at the fundamentals, right? So the main two fundamental analysis that we really have to make for layer ones for, you know, blockchains is really the TVL that it has in you know, in DeFi, in this DeFi ecosystems, and also we need to also see like how much volume, you know, how much activity. So even if you have high TVL, that's nice, but you need real activity, you know, real stuff to be, you know, going on. So and yeah, I mean, also kind of the stable coins, like, you know, the how many stable coins do you have, you know, is kind of also another thing that you could be interested in, because, you know, stable coins is becoming a pretty big use case. So, you know, as a third bonus thing, we can also look at stable coins, but like I said, more important is just the total TVL. Okay, so let's start from here. Let's start from the total TVL of, you know, of the entire ecosystem, crypto ecosystem, and of course POL, Polygon, compared to everything else. So as always, you know, Ethereum is still #1 by far, especially in the, you know, the TVL and how much liquidity do we have locked on the Ethereum blockchain. But then, you know, comparing more apples to apples, the interesting thing is that, look, on the TVL, right, on TVL specifically, POL, Polygon, you know, this is why I like decided to make the video about Polygon instead of SUI, because like it actually has more TVL than SUI, okay? And SUI is, how much market cap does it have? So it's number 31, and it has 6.3 million market cap. This is versus Polygon that only has 1.3. Now, also if we kind of look specifically on SUI, there's like a lot more tokens to still be emitted by SUI, because SUI is a crypto that we started having in the last cycle in 2023. Polygon exists for far longer, and basically, you know, the total supply is, this is why also the chart was so much down, right? But the total supply is out there. So I would say, you know, if the bear market continues even more here, I personally will expect SUI to collapse a lot more than Polygon, and then depending when the next bull run starts, because SUI will still have a lot more tokens to be emitted from the fully diluted valuation, and Matic will not, Matic POL, Polygon would be able to, in my opinion, outperform quite a lot, at least against SUI. At least fundamentally, right? So once, you know, like in a year from now, in half a year from now, the technical analysis of the chart is still super important. And also on-chain analysis also helps. But for now, you know, fundamentally, we need to zoom out a little bit and see what's going on, you know, with things like that to really look at the fundamentals. So that being said, SUI, like on the fully diluted valuation, is really like 10x, has a 10x higher valuation than POL. All right, so at least versus SUI, POL is, you know, 10x undervalued. So it means either SUI needs to get to like 16 cents approximately, or POL has to come back to $1, right, to just be on par with SUI. Now again, remember that, you know, because SUI was like, you know, there's a lot of in crypto narratives, and, you know, kind of momentum is very important. So of course Matic also in the past, you know, was worth $3 at the peak, right? And momentum is important. So you have to understand, like, SUI was a new coin that was launched, you know, in the cycle, and POL was suffering from the emissions from the previous cycle. So you have to understand the context. Like, probably SUI will remain overvalued for some time, but we are looking here, you know, for the next bull run. We're looking here for, you know, 3-4 years from now. So according to this, POL, Polygon, is 10x undervalued versus SUI. Now also, if we look here at the volume, right? So Polygon has a volume on its chain of 87 million. Not too bad. But SUI has a little bit more, 134. This is, you know, this is better. This is by 1.5x higher. That said, this is still not anywhere close to the market cap valuations. Like, even if you're not looking at the fully diluted, even if you're looking only at market cap, this is, this is like 5x-ish higher than POL. So if you want to make it fair according to the volume on chain, there's still like, 3x at least of undervaluation between POL and SUI. So even if you look at the volume, SUI is a little bit higher than Polygon, but not by 5x. And when you look at TVL, Polygon is actually higher than SUI. So more or less we can say that Polygon and SUI fundamentally are more or less on par. By the way, let's maybe also have a look on the stablecoins. I'm pretty sure that, Polygon has a lot more stablecoins also, like quite significantly more, but this is also, part of the fact that Polygon has been around for much longer. So, I'll actually kind of give like the benefit of the doubt in a way to SUI in this comparison, and not count the stablecoins in this particular instance. But in any case, like fundamentally, they're more or less equivalent, but POL is 10x undervalued against the fully diluted valuation, and still 5x undervalued against the market cap. Now, this is SUI, right? Like kind of a direct competitor here. Then we also have Avalanche, okay? Avalanche on, where is that? Like really, on the TVL here, like we said. Avalanche, is pretty close. Like, it's pretty almost equivalent numbers. We can say that they are, like Avalanche is slightly higher, but, not like by 10%, not by something significant. Over here, let's actually have a look how much volume they have. Okay, so on the volume side of things, Avalanche is a lot more active. Okay, it's active by how much is it, like 4x or so more active than Polygon. Okay, lastly, we can check the stable coins, and this comparison is relevant because both chains exist from around the same times. And over here, Polygon is, also not by a ton, but higher than Avalanche. So all in all, I would say Avalanche should be at a higher market cap than Polygon, primarily because it's a lot more active. The trading volume on Avalanche is a lot more active now by 4x, because on the stable coins, they're pretty close to each other. POL is slightly better, and on the TVL, Avalanche is slightly better. So I would say TVL plus stable coins, maybe POL is, let's say, by 20%, a little bit better, but then Avalanche is by 300%, by 4x better in the volume. So all in all, we can say that Avalanche should be approximately 2 to 3x higher of a market cap, at least, again, based on the volume. So let's have a look. So Avalanche is actually really close here to SUI. So we can also, by the way, already understand that probably SUI is also overvalued compared to Avalanche, because they're both, the same here, and we conclude that Avalanche should be higher than Polygon. So when we compare Avalanche, right, the fully diluted is pretty close here. So this is a little bit more apples to apples, right? So when we compare to a new hot coin like SUI, then we see massive undervaluation. POL is crazy undervalued, 10x undervalued. Avalanche, is not as insane of an undervaluation. For the most part, by the way, Avalanche also probably, didn't succeed as much as people hoped in this bull run. I mean, it did have like primarily this move, which was not bad, from $8 to 60. It was, I don't know, like 6-7x, not bad. Better than Polygon for sure. Like the price looks here better than Polygon. At least 2022 and 2023 were lower prices than now, right? Like at least Avalanche is not at lows since like 2020, 2019, which is the case for Matic. We're coming back to its levels from the previous cycle. So yeah, but that said, right? That said, the valuation of Avalanche is still, something like a 5x higher, right? Something between 4 to 5x higher against POL. So if we concluded that because of the volume, like the volume is 4x, but then the rest of the DeFi and stable coins are more or less the same, and the volume, of course, is not like important, but it's not like, a lot more important than the other two. So all in all, I think it is fair to say that Avalanche should be approximately 2x higher. But Avalanche is 5x higher, right? So again, like even compared to if POL compared to SUI should be $1 now, POL compared to Avalanche should be, still like 30 cents or so, 25 to 30 cents, something like that. So POL is still undervalued by, let's say, 2 to 3x, 2.5x maybe, against Avalanche. Now, I would say these two are probably the very best comparisons, right? Avalanche and SUI, because they're more or less very close to each other. And in stablecoins, they're kind of, like I said, relevant comparisons. Yeah. Then look, I also want to compare. Let's also make a comparison to Solana, because there were times in the past when the volume on both Solana and Matic was actually more or less the same. And now, Polygon right now is like, kind of chain number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in its kind of importance, right? So clearly the 3 or maybe 4, we can also count maybe Base. But generally, the 3 main blockchains of the world, in the past few years have been Ethereum, Solana, and BSC. Then we have this kind of secondary tier that, are fighting kind of for, the next position. So Arbitrum was kind of, it's a layer 2, but it was kind of successful the last few years or so. I think Optimism, I don't see it here. That was also, had decent times. And, Polygon, of course, Avalanche. All these guys are always there. Okay? So, but that said, it is still important to compare to Solana because, by the way, Solana, I think, is like still slightly undervalued, like against Ethereum. Again, I think like both can, if it's a full-on bear market, I think both can still go down quite a lot. But just generally, I think Solana is relatively a little bit more undervalued against Ethereum. Not as much as it was, like in the beginning of the cycle, but it is somewhat undervalued. So now let's compare Solana to Polygon. Now, I'm pretty sure that on the volume side of things, this is definitely, on the volume side of things, definitely Polygon needs to improve, okay? So, it's in billions, but, we're gonna divide Solana's volume in billions to Polygon in millions. And, like there's a 54x difference between in the volume, right, between Solana and Polygon. This is quite a big difference. So of course, we're looking like, from number 30 to number 6, but there's a massive difference in market cap. So Solana is 80 billion and SUI Avalanche were 6 billion, and Polygon, like you guys remember, was only 1 billion. So basically Solana, if we see it, so based on the volume, Solana is just, or I guess POL is just slightly undervalued against Solana, okay? Because the number here we have is 61, and this is versus, basically the market cap of Solana is 61x higher, but its volume is also 54x higher than Polygon, okay? So when it comes to volume, like I said, Polygon needs to improve and needs to have a little bit more activity on its chain. Because yeah, like, 50, 60x, is pretty close to each other. So it means that they're actually fairly priced against Solana on the volume side of things. But now let's have a look again on the TVL and on the stable coins. And here I'm pretty sure the difference would not be as big, and we can see it, immediately. So, basically we can see that more or less Solana is over, like, has 9x more TVL than Polygon. Let's actually also have a look on the stable coins. I'm pretty sure the difference is not anywhere as big. Yeah, I always don't understand why there's so many stable coins on Tron. But anyway, Solana, 15 billion, and Polygon is 3 billion more or less. So that's also like 5 to 6x, okay? So when it comes to the TVL and the stable coins, there's approximately, 7, 8x difference between Solana and Polygon. So, if we look only at TVL and stable coins, then if Solana has like 7x more TVL approximately, and it's almost 60x more overvalued, it means that Polygon on the TVL side of things is like 10x undervalued. So we're back like to the comparison with Sui to around $1. But you know, to round things up, because like we said, the volume on Polygon is just pretty low, you know, much lower than on Solana, significantly lower. You know, we need to make some hybrid between the two, the volume and the TVL, and you know, the stable coins that are available to do the, you know, because like on Polygon, even if you do have this TVL and even if you do have like, you know, the stable coins and stuff to play around on the chain, if you still just don't really have that much activity, like, you know, I mean, it's good for the ecosystem that you do have the TVL and stable coins, but this is like, to complete it, you really need, you know, the volume. You really need people to do stuff with this kind of high TVL and everything. So all in all, back to this kind of main comparison to Solana, which, you know, was the main superstar really of the last cycle. Yeah, when it comes to the TVL, the difference is around 7x from Solana to Polygon. But when it comes to volume, the difference was around 50x. So, you know, we can round it up. You know, we can kind of find a common ground. So I would say Solana fairly should be approximately 15 to 20x, something like that, with a higher market cap than POL, Matic. But like we said, because Solana is 80 billion right now, and Polygon is 1.3 billion, and the difference is 61x, but POL should be like, you know, have, instead of a 60x, it should have something like a 20x difference, or maybe even 15x. So even compared to Solana, you know, the main superstar that I think is like relatively undervalued, relatively speaking, compared, like, you know, to Bitcoin and Ethereum and XRP, even compared to Solana, which is like undervalued, I think, within these kind of top 10, POL is still approximately 3x undervalued against Solana. So to conclude kind of the main things that we're discussing here, right? So the main chains that we are comparing to, right? This is Solana, Avalanche, and Sui. So Avalanche and Sui as the more equivalents that are much closer to Polygon in terms of its volume, maybe not exactly Avalanche, but you know, you get the point, TVL, stable coins. And then we can compare to a real superstar of the last bull run, Solana. So in all of these comparisons, right? So Polygon is like 10 to 16x undervalued against Sui because of the extra emissions that Sui is gonna have. It is still undervalued by around 2.5 to 3x against Avalanche, and also undervalued by around 3x against Solana, right? So compared to chains that have been around for the same amount of time, like Polygon Matic, right? Like Polygon Matic was from 2019, 2020. So Solana was around from 2020, and Avalanche was around from 2020. Then Sui, like we said, was around from 2023. This is why Sui is still relatively overvalued and probably gonna collapse more than all of the others, all of these other ones in the bear market. But like, even if we compare apples to apples and not only to Sui, even if we compare to Avalanche and Solana, like we said, Matic, because like it was never able to gain any momentum, it is still undervalued. Like, given where the price of Solana and Avalanche is right now, Polygon should, like, you know, still around 3x undervalued. Like, the more fair price against its peers should be, you know, somewhere here. It should be, you know, at close to 40 cents, you know, like 36, 30, something like that, 35 cents for a round number. This should be kind of the more fair price, the price that Polygon had, you know, back in, you know, October, September 2024. Which, by the way, interestingly, like I said, if we look at Solana, remember September, October 2024. September, October 2024 will be here. for Solana, and Solana was also like, you know, in this region of 130 to 140, which is the same price where Solana is at right now, 130 to 140. Avalanche, I actually don't remember. Let's have a look. I wonder. In September, October, yeah. So Avalanche is down since you know, quite a bit. But you got the point. Like, Solana held its price better throughout this whole time, and because Matic didn't have any momentum, which Solana had, you know, quite a lot of momentum in this bull run. This is why, you know, well, like, we had bearish phases in crypto, like, you know, March, April 2025, and now more recently, Matic is just collapsing a lot more than Solana, for example, and also, I guess, to Avalanche to some degree. So this is why, at the moment, POL is a lot more undervalued, and because it's exploring new lows and doesn't look great technically at all, I would expect that, like, even at the bottoms of the bear market, I think POL will stay as undervalued more or less as it is right now against Solana and Avalanche. But then, you know, once we flip back to a new cycle, to a new bull run, then I think POL has a fantastic chance to actually be among the you know, the best opportunities for outperformance in the next cycle. Now, of course, you know, we will have to live by then. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like, you know, so that we will make a future video about POL, Polygon, Matic, and see how it's doing, you know, because, like, we'll have to, you know, see that the fundamentals stay the same, that they don't change from what they are right now. But yeah, all in all, guys, this is kind of the main crust of the video. This is the main point of the video, that POL Polygon is right now like approximately 3x undervalued. Its fair price against its peers in, you know, in the layer 1 cryptos should be at a higher price, at like 35 cents. I don't expect it to happen soon, you know, because technically, like, it's not really on the way of doing something like that. But all in all, it is probably gonna be a really, really nice opportunity for the next bull run. So thank you guys for being here once again. I was AR7 Crypto, and have a fantastic week and a fantastic weekend ahead, and cheers as always.